Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the new architectural practices, analyzing AI in the digital landscape. So personally, I come from a phenomenological background, trying to understand authenticity and existentialism in architecture. And then we had AI. And when AI started being integrated in architecture, hitting it hit me hard that I'm still drunk on that phase. You know, from that, how people with insecurities blame others for mistakes. So AI, actually, it hits me so hard that it made me wonder sometimes, in the future, if architects are using AI extensively, would we start blaming the computer for ugly buildings in the city? Like, it wasn't me, it was the AI. So
Mustapha, you are able to see your presenter screen. I'm not sure if that's a problem, but we're able to
yeah,
see like
the notes.
yeah.
Let me fix this. 1 second. Um, Can you see anything now or no?
No.
Okay, sorry. Share screen. Now
No,
you can't see my screen.
we cannot.
Nothing.
No, nothing's popped up.
Now?
Yes, now we can. If you want to just present it from this view, that might be easiest.
Now? Still?
Yep, that's perfect. That's great.
Okay. So throughout history, humans have often been apprehensive about the introduction of new technologies, especially those that have the potential to disrupt traditional ways of working in the field of architecture. Similar fears emerged when computer-aided designs, CAD tools like AutoCAD, were first introduced in the early 1980s. The transition into the 20th century saw incremental advancements in drafting technology with the introduction of drafting machines and slide rulers on the right, yet the process remained largely manual. Until that is the advent of groundbreaking revolution in the late 20th century, the introduction of AutoCAD burst into the scene in 1982, dramatically changing the landscape of architectural design. And on the left, this is the first CAD program used in 1982. Today, the architectural field is facing another technological paradigm shift as artificial intelligence continues to develop and infiltrates various aspects of the design and construction process. Similarly to the initial response to CAD, there is a mix of excitement and apprehension about the potential impacts of AI on the profession. This review presentation today aims to provide an overview of AI's current integration into the architectural process, discuss its potential and how it would be illogical to hide behind our fingers, as we say in Arabic, to undermine these technologies in the domain, and especially in the architectural education. AI is starting to automate some of the more routine and mundane tasks in architecture, from drafting to 3D modeling. AI tools are capable of reducing the time architects spend on these tasks, freeing them up to focus more on the creative and strategic aspects of work. However, like any powerful tool, AI also presents challenges. There are ethical considerations, questions about job displacement, specifically in the architectural field, and concern about the potential loss of the human touch in design. Much like the introduction of CAD, the advent of AI in architecture has been met with a degree of skepticism and resistance. In the context of our discussion, today I want to emphasize that these remarkable tools, such as beginning with CAD, BIM, and now AI, and others yet to be invented, are not a license for laziness. They should not be seen as a replacement for our fundamental skills, knowledge, and creative way of thinking. Instead, they should be viewed as extraordinary assets that, when used effectively and responsibly, can enable us to reach new heights. That said, the technologies that we've discussed today, by automating repetitive tasks, they free up time and energy to focus on the aspects of architecture that truly matter, architectural parts that have vanished with the uprise of modernism, such as the human dwelling experience inside of the current oculocentric structures. Mentioning oculocentrism that we have been having since the Renaissance, now it's much more clear that such beauties and aesthetic experiences questioning are wide open, questioning the architect educational system, all those grandiose names with their ability to create weird, uninhabitable designs, only valuable to be posted on social media platform to gain ocular pleasures and attract tourists. These are questions. Now AI actually can do a better job than you, creating uninhabitable creative structures based on algorithms. Structures that are extremely eye-pleasing that I can just bet the amount of propaganda a state can do to attract more tourists if they were built. With that said, now I will jump into the process in architecture that AI infiltrated in much better way, opening way for other important things to question. But first, let us navigate the classical architectural process. So in architecture, the stages of architectural construction can be broken down into several key phases involving various professionals and stakeholders throughout the process. These stages are, as I'm not going to go in details into them, but we have the pre-design programming or the concept, and then site analysis, schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding and negotiation, permitting, construction administration, construction, inspection and closeout, and finally with the post-occupancy evaluation. Of course, as we are speaking about the process, now we look into how this process was infiltrated with AI, and AI in which process now we can see it. So AI had made significant strides in various stages of the architectural process, from pre-design and programming to post-occupancy evaluation. The integration of AI tools and technologies can help to address many of the challenges associated with classical architectural processes. Of course, as we are speaking also, some programmers and entrepreneurs are creating now new things that could also be integrated in any of these processes. However, up until now of the review that I did, we will check what there is. So in the pre-design programming stage, AI-driven chatbots can facilitate initial communication with clients, while tools like space syntax can analyze and optimize space relationships and usage. In the schematic design and design development stages, AI tools like Midjourney, DALL-E, and many others that we are seeing now can assist with much of that concept generation, design exploration, and even creating plans. During the construction document stage, AI-powered softwares such as SWAP can automate the production of coordinating drawings and specifications, creating drawings from all perspectives with all the details required to be used directly in construction. Permitting can be also expedited through the use of AI-driven code compliances checking tools such as Upcode's AI, which can identify potential codes violations in real time and streamline the permitting process. In construction administration, AI-powered project management tools like Procore and PlanGrid can help to track schedules, budgets, and progress more effectively, reducing the risks of delay and overruns. So in the construction process, of course, now we have many construction robots for bricklayering that are being developed, and also the 3D printing for construction, and it is only the earliest phase of these robotics. So let's start with the pre-design phase. And the pre-design phase, also known as the conceptual or preliminary phase, it is an early stage in the design process. During this stage, the scope, constraints, and goals of a project are defined and explored. It's the step that happens before detailed design work begins, setting the stage for all subsequent design and development activities. Like we have the problem definition, and then like AI algorithms, particularly machine learning and natural language processing, can help analyze large sets of data, such as customer feedback or product usage statistics, to identify recurring issues or needs that architects can utilize. Then we have the requirement settings, feasibility study, concept generation, preliminary evaluation, and selection. Here is a little example of one of my students where they did a drawing, a 1-point perspective drawing on the top left. And it took only 2 minutes actually to change this into other perspectives, other drawings, other kind of emotions that they were initiated by the AI. So we used only the sketch to create. In the site analysis process, site analysis so is a critical phase in the planning and design process, particularly in the field of architecture, urban planning, landscape design, and civil engineering. It involves studying the physical, environmental, and cultural characteristics of a specific land parcel before starting a development project. The goal is to understand the opportunity and constraints of the site to ensure that the designs align well with its context. So we have the topography, the climate analysis, vegetation and wildlife, or the environmental, and then access and circulation, surrounding context, and legal and regulatory factors. With these processes, now we have Carto, which visualize data instantly to see where things are. It's a location intelligence platform enabling the use of spatial data and analyzing for effective delivery routes, behavioral marketing, strategic placement, and among other things. Schematic design. We all know what's a schematic design. I'm gonna go through this fast so I don't jump over the time. So key parts, key activities of it, we have the development of design drawings, material and system discussions, client reviews and revisions and refinements. Here is a simple example that design we did, my friend and I, for a competition. And this was actually the sketch from SketchUp. And it took me, I have a 10 years plus experience, a render time of 4 days, which I used 4 to 5 computer programs still, not hand drafts, but still, it took me almost 4 days to create this visual. Now, with only using this again in the render program, it took me only 1 minute to create such visual. The prompt I use eco-sustainable house. Of course, I didn't do any touch on this. We can add with only minor touches on Photoshop, it can change everything again. Here's another one, which I used a different prompt of eco-futuristic, creating this kind of visuals that I wouldn't even imagine creating myself from this initial one. Here we have, so is it playing? Anything playing? Okay, so here we have the Finch. This is one example of site analysis with also after you feed with all the data about the laws of the area, it could just stay in the background, informing you about all the environmental aspects surrounding, and if you are going above the law. This is another tool now. It's also from Finch, where it directly, just by putting the area and playing around, it gives you the most optimized space for the furniture. Of course, we can change it. Of course, we can be more creative, but we are looking at things that it will give you until now, the basic ways of looking at space. But definitely this, as we, and such processes, we are working by rhythms. Definitely an AI can do much better work than us. Here we have also architecture is a powered building design. In the initial stages of residential project, also this can be relevant. I can go forward, giving you all shapes that you can use. Detailed construction documents. So construction documents, this was a little bit skeptical at the beginning, like even construction documents, the details of giving you how it could be built. It was, when we thought about it, it would be hard for AI to infiltrate. But guess what? Now we have it, that AI can give you actually the full detailed plan, full detailed section, full detailed elevation, and to go to construction directly, while optimizing the space that you have. Here's an example. It works with Revit, and it gives you all the lists and schedules ready. In the post-construction phase, so post-construction refers to the phase after the physical construction of a building or infrastructure is completed. This phase includes several important aspects that ensure the project is project's successful completion and the structure's readiness for occupation and use. So it has commission, punch list, build handover, occupancy, post-occupancy evaluation, maintenance, and facility management. Now we have the EXIN AI-powered drones capture, survey, grade 3D maps of construction sites in progress and already done. It tracks real-time change detections and avoid costly rework. Here's the robot inside of the construction. And this is the map that the robot is creating about the construction process and what are the elements that still needs to be figured out. In conclusion, the integration of AI technologies into the architectural process presents significant opportunities for improving efficiency, accuracy, and sustainability in the design and construction of the built environment. By harnessing the power of AI-driven tools and collaborating with these technologies, architects can enhance their creative and initiative design processes. Successful integration of AI into the architectural process depends on a balance between automation and the human input, while architects maintaining a central role in guiding and evaluating the outputs of AI-driven tools. By embracing the potential of AI and adapting to new ways of working, architects can leverage the power of data-driven analysis and automation, advance the practice of architecture, and better respond to evolving needs of society. However, part two of my research, was part one, I will end with part two, but part two of my research is related actually to the question of authenticity from a phonological perspective. As we have attributed authenticity always to something that is handmade, physical, old, aesthetic, and with some specific criteria previously acknowledged by academics. Now the question of aesthetics and authenticity is wide open and must be understood from a different singular moment. AI in the architectural landscape is changing, and I think it is now the only time in recent history architects can go back to get in touch with the essence of what they had to do, relating the sacred, the infinite, and the social. If empirical processes, the practical ones that now we have seen in the architectural process, are actually already solved, although we are only at the pre-birth phase of AI, this means we should use our active process of our brains, which personally I related to the being towards death, a Heideggerian concept, into being active to create something of meaning, even if it is hyperdigital. Only when we are active, only when we feel that active, this is what will differentiate us actually from the AI as a conclusion. It is the active process of our brains rather than the passive. This is the differentiation. Thank you.
We have 6 minutes for questions.
All right. Thank you for this talk. I actually do have a question. So I think Orem's talk earlier made me think a lot about practice and the value of practice. And I'm curious, is there something lost in the automation of the design process here? So do architects, for example, develop certain tacit knowledge or skills when they go through the practice of investigation and sketching manually? And I guess you were saying that the upshot of these technologies is that they free up time and energy for focusing on humane aspects of design. But yeah, how is the wisdom getting there earned, if not through like this kind of manual and even sometimes meditative practice of putting together these works by hand, guided by one's own intuition and research. So yeah, I'm just curious what you think.
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, it always goes back to the question of what is the basis, or what is the originality or the existential form of architecture. What is architectural for? Is it a sculpture? Is it a building? Or does it go to the question of dwelling inside of a building? If it goes back to the question of dwelling, then it means that there's this aspect that no one is capable of doing, only when us live inside of that functional space. Also creating architecture, we question it in an authentic purpose. Like, we remember our grandma's houses, but I'm just giving an example. It was authentic, maybe to the memory, maybe to the smell of what was there in, but we didn't actually meet the builder. Was the builder an architect? Was the builder my grandfather? Was the builder, who was the builder? So we just live in those spaces and create our memories, and then it becomes authentic. So it doesn't depend actually on who's the architect behind it, but it actually depends on creating those spatial processes that will enhance those the dwelling phenomena, or that dwelling feeling. So if it is an AI creating it or us creating it, it doesn't matter, as long as the memory inside of the house is created from a different social aspect. I'm sorry, you said also about the process as us as architects. Yes, definitely, we still love drafting by our hands, drafting ideas, and only when we link our hands with our brains, actually our creative process is enhanced. But when for example, if I showed you the example of one of the students that, okay, they did the sketch, and this was something with a specific form, but let's say I created a sketch. This sketch is used in the AI in order to create different shapes. I can only give you a little example. I don't know if you have seen the Guggenheim Museum, the first sketch of the Guggenheim Museum. So usually the architects, those star architects, they created a little sketch. After, of course, they are famous, and they would give the sketch into the drafters that they have. And those drafters, they would create the design that they wanted initially. Of course, the architect didn't know. He had an idea. The architect, they had an idea of how it will end, like an idea or concept, a general concept, when they created it in their creative minds. But later on, it's only the drafters that created actually the details of that spatial experience. It's not them, the main architects. So if we are saying now that we create those sketches out of the creative process of our brains, and then instead of having drafters in order to focus on that little details of the architectural process, AI can do that. And we can only focus after that on the human process inside of those architectural being built.
I have another question, but I want to be mindful. Yeah.
I'm trying to articulate it into a question. Thank you so much. That's absolutely fascinating. What I was really interested in is, I think, going through in lots of these talks, we're sort of battling between the ethics of going to AI. And
sorry, I cannot hear you. There's a lot of echo.
Maybe go to speak. Oh, there you go. I'm coming. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
I think in lots of these talks, we're talking about the ethics of moving towards AI and what that's going to mean. And I was thinking what's very interesting in the context of architecture particularly is obviously there's such an environmental impact of architecture in the building process and in how our buildings are created and how they're like releasing heat, etc., etc. And I sort of just think a lot about, I think a lot about cement. So that's a really weird thing to say. But I just wondered if, interestingly, from an ethical point, actually depending more and more on AI will end up being the most effectively altruistic thing that we can do, because actually we'll be creating buildings that are environmentally more friendly. We can program in ways that the architecture itself is serving social needs better because of the programming, I assume. So actually from a, yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on that almost like final ethical calculation.
Well, I can add something to what you said. Of course, AI now it's utilizing all the sustainable processes that we have been since like now 20 years almost. We're having this hype around the keywords of sustainability. But then, yeah, because sustainability actually it's understanding your surrounding environment and having the best outcome in order to be integrated with the environment. So if we have AI actually, and you're feeding AI with the specific location and with all the environmental factors around you, with all the local materials that has been used, this, of course, it will only help or aid the sustainable process of every building. But then we also have another thing, which is you mentioned. We know that the biggest CO2 building process is in building itself. The cement is putting cement into buildings. But then we also have been building a lot of buildings that are not used, and then with only if we also, and this could be a program that someone can do, if someone can feed the AI or feed the program of all the unused buildings and some specifications with those also the robots that we saw, that they can read the specifications of the building. They can read buildings that they are unused, what they need, how much they would cost. These are all processes that can be done easily. And then you would have a map of what are the buildings that are unused instead of building new buildings and having an impact on our environment. Yet we can use our unused buildings that they are actually plenty. And this only is a beginning in order, because if we had this, of course, the state wouldn't prefer this because it will lower the capital on buying buildings and buying apartments or even renting apartments. But then only with these processes we are capable of living sustainably in a city or around.